Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to today's show of Life's Little Lessons. And today's a lady that I met online on Facebook, and we had a great conversation afterwards. And after having this conversation, I found out that this lady has some unique things about her, and that's the reason I was bringing her on the show today. And I figured that some of the things that she does, that you as the listener would actually really gain some great information, some great knowledge, and possibly even do something yourself that you could actually relate with her. Her name is Natalia Yungerlevi, and she actually has a business called Natalia Yungerlevi Business Services. She's the owner and founder of this company. She's also known as helping people with their employee retention. So this is going to be somebody I think you're going to be able to, for those of you that are business owners of small businesses or those of you that are looking to scale your business, this is a lady that I think you're going to get some great information from. So Natalia, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So you have your own company. It's named after yourself, obviously. So it's Natalia Yungerlevi, or you call it NY Business Services. Could you tell me a little bit about that, and what is it that you do, and why is it that you do it?
Yeah. So typically I work with established business owners who are struggling with employee retention, high operating costs, and are frustrated with employees not showing up to work, absenteeism. And my simple 5 keys to retention process helps employers basically add more value to their employees so that their employees are engaged and satisfied. I help them reduce their turnover and lower their operating costs so that they can increase their profits, decrease their operating costs, and have a sustainable business. Because over the long run, it's not investing in your employees is necessary. There's been lots of research that shows that if companies are just kind of putting energy into their business and their products and their services, but not treating their employees like a stakeholder or a shareholder in their company or like their own customers, then they're actually losing money. Because when you invest in your employees, you can increase the amount of money that's coming into your business because your employees are better. So they bring in more money, they show up to work more often. And there's lots of research that shows like how much it costs to replace an employee. So losing them is really costly. And I think a lot of employers don't think about this, and they just run their businesses and look at their operating costs the way they are and don't really think that by treating their employees differently, that they can actually make more profit that way. And so that's what I help them with, is I help them hone down on their employee benefits and what they're doing for their people, keep their people engaged, keep them happy, because satisfied employees are loyal employees and stick around. And there's like a cornucopia of benefits for having satisfied employees.
Okay. And I mean, I know I've been an employee. I've been a cubicle worker myself in the past, and this was before moving to Las Vegas. And I remember working as a Y2K consultant. This is in 1999 for many years as a computer programmer. And yes, I mean, it felt like I was just another cog in the big wheel of things. I did not feel like I was anything special or anything like that. So how is it that you help them with their employee retention? How is it that you help to make the employees happier? What are some of the tools or guidelines that you give the employer?
So I have the 5 keys to retention system, which is basically on core values, culture, community, competitive benefits, and crew. And around those 5 topics, we create a strategy plan and an execution plan, and hone down on the right employee benefits, because no matter how good your culture is in the employee and how much you try to engage your employees, if you're giving them really low pay or not competitive benefits, you're not going to be able to keep your people. They'll leave for a small increase in wage because they'll know that that's really the market value of their work. That's why all those 5 things are so important. Is employee retention doesn't just happen. You have to put effort into it. And it can be easy when you get organized and think of it as a strategy and it's a top priority. And a lot of employers leave it to their HR and don't really get involved. And I think that's where the disconnect is. So by me connecting the employer to that concept and connecting them with their HR and help them execute a plan that really focuses on their employees, their people, and it all comes together. So over a 6-month period, I've noticed that companies have lowered their retention by 40%, which is amazing. Wow. Yeah, they've increased profit by twice. So their employees can actually bring in twice the amount of money in sales. Because a lot of the businesses that I work with, they make money off of selling products, whether it's a dentist selling their services or it's a shop selling, a widget or whatever. They're using people to make that money. So when you invest in those people make a lot more money for you.
Okay, because obviously a happy employee makes up for a happier company, and therefore that would lead into higher sales and more sales just because of the energy, the personal and mental energy is different, has shifted.
Of course, yeah. And the reverse side of that I think sometimes employers don't think about is when your employees aren't engaged and aren't happy, it erodes your brand because the employees are what your customers see as your brand. So when they're interacting with the customer, if they're not happy and you can tell that they're coming to work just to come to work, that they're not invested or not particularly excited to be there. And so the customer can feel that. And so they generally spend a little bit less money, or their mentality is, let me get what I need and get out. And so by having happier employees, you're actually engaging your customers twice as long as well. You give them more of an opportunity to buy. You create those lasting relationships, and not only employee loyalty, but customer loyalty too.
Okay, because if a happy customer will come back and spend more money if they had a good experience with that company.
Of course, yeah. Well, I know that's true for myself, and I think it's true for a lot of other people. I go back to businesses that I've had long relationships with. I mean, I've been with Sprint for a really long time just because they, do what I need them to do, and so why switch?
Yeah. So if you have no reason to leave, then okay. And what are some of the things? I don't know if you can answer this or not specifically. What are some of the things that you do overall that makes the employee happier? Is it just a company culture? Because I know that was one of your 5 keys.
Yeah. So we talk about culture, and we create team building exercises that the employers can do with their employees to to keep them engaged and have them get to know each other more. And build the company culture and communicate the values and the mission and the vision of the company to the people to get the people or the employees more bought in to that culture. And the more your people are connected, the happier they are to be there and the longer that they'll stay. And competitive benefits as well. So it's a balancing act. So you've got all these 5 keys, and you're focusing on them in it's like a recipe. You want to put the right amounts of everything in to get the result that you need. So it's very, very similar to that. So we make sure that what they're offering their employees as their pay and their benefits is all in alignment with market value. Or if it's not, then we hone in on why and try to solve those problems. And we create engagement exercises. A lot of it is also changing the mindset and beliefs of the employer. I'd say that's probably 80% of it.
So after now, when you visit an employer and you help them through the program, I know some of it is through insurance products. I know some of it's through education. Some of it's through, like you say, team building exercises. Do you go back and revisit that company after your thing is over, just to see how the changes have been implemented and how? Of
course. Yeah. So we'll start out by creating a strategy plan. And then we'll have check-in points throughout that time. They'll always connect it to me in the sense that they can ask questions and I'll answer those questions. They have a way of getting a hold of me. Their employees also have a way of getting a hold of me regarding their employee benefits. And if they had any questions regarding what's going on and with their employee benefits space. Afterwards, that our project, quote unquote, is over, it's never really over in the sense that although I'm not checking in as often, I'm still there for them. So if something happened or if, let's say, an employee quit and they think it might be related to something that was going on in an exercise or something like that, then of course, they can reach out, we'll talk. And my services are actually no cost to the employer. So, wow. Which keeps them wanting to keep engaged with me because I deliver the value and I don't charge them. The way that I make money is off of commission from the insurance products. And so essentially the service that I provide for the employer is no cost to them, which makes it more attractive for them to stay in touch and continue to make sure that their employees are happy.
So, and I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're offering a service that is essentially free. Your overall result is a better bottom line, so the employer makes more money, and you also have a happier customer base, or even employee base, so that when the employees come to work, they are actually happy to be there.
Yes.
So where's the downside?
Good question. I don't see a downside. I think of it as a win-win-win situation for everybody, the employer, the employees, and of course myself, because I'm providing a service and I get compensated for that service as well. So it's a win-win all around. At some point, I will be charging for the employee retention services if I'm going to be doing them disattached from the employee benefits. So if I'm helping other employers maybe in a different state manage their employee retention and get better results and get a better bottom line, then I'm heading in the direction of being able to charge for those services. Right now I'm working in my local area, and that's actually where I've been working for the majority of the 9 years. I am licensed in Utah and Nevada, but a lot of the employee retention stuff that I do is one-on-one and meeting with the employees as well. So I have to be there. So locally is where I've been doing it so far.
And what is local for you? Where are you located?
So I'm happy to work all over California, but locally to me is Los Angeles. So I'm in West Hollywood, and I've traveled. San Diego is not that far, so I can travel to visit businesses. But of course, if they're in my backyard, like within Los Angeles, within West Hollywood, even so much better.
Now, what size of businesses are you normally dealing with? You talk about like under 10 people, under 50 people, over 100? What size businesses are you typically working with?
Good question. So typically it's small businesses, and ranging between 5 employees to 350 I've had. And it's a much different approach when you're helping employers manage 350 employees than when you're helping them manage 10 employees. My system, my 5 keys to retention system, is better with a smaller group because then I can really be one-on-one. It's harder to be one-on-one with 350 people.
Right, because I know when I was a computer programmer, we all were in different departments. So I was assuming that that even if you're working with 350 employees, you may say, okay, today we're only going to work with finance department. Tomorrow we're going to work with sales and marketing department. And you can break it down that way. Is that somehow something that you do or you try and do just to make it a little bit more
well, I try to meet with every employee at least once. Okay. And so when we've done, I've had a few large companies and that's just taken a bit longer, so if I can split them up by departments. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. A lot of times it happens based on what the managers, the head people of that department, like what their plans are and what they want their employees to do. And they fit me in because I take employee time basically. Right. To meet with them. So it's more of on their schedule and when they're able to have me come in and be able to meet with every employee for at least 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, so that's cool that you get to know the employees individually. You get to know the managers, and obviously you're dealing with the actual business owners because they're the ones, or at least somewhere near close to the business owner is the one that's actually hiring you to come in and do this. They're the ones that's making the financial decision to do this.
Yeah, it's funny that you say financial decision. Considering I don't charge, but yeah, they do make the decision.
Okay. Well, it's the financial because they're the ones that can order your services. They're the one that can pay for the insurance policies. They're the ones that can do that. That's because the janitor is not going to be able to make that decision. They have no say in the matter.
Yeah, so. I was just joking with you because it's atypical that you get a service where the service isn't really charging the employer. And so the service that I provide the employer is, no cost to them, but there is a whole lot of value built in for everybody.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this for again?
The employee retention part for about 3 years.
3 years? Okay.
Yeah, but all in the insurance space for about 9 years.
Okay, so you've got quite a lot of experience in doing this. And
yeah, well, for about 8 years in the worksite area, so 8 years working with businesses, and 1 year I did with another insurance company when I was like fresh off the boat and just was getting into the insurance industry. And I guess that attaches to or speaks into why I'm doing this, why I even got into insurance in the first place. But I got in with a company which was a lot of knocking on the door and selling life insurance individually to people. And I realized that probably isn't my jam. No. And stepped back. For me, it was always the goal of wanting residual income. And so when I was going through school, I was looking into opportunities, how I could take a business, create the profit, and then put that profit in another business, which is the nonprofit that I've always wanted to run since I was 12 years old. And so for me, it goes back to my foster care experience that I am former foster youth. So it's going through foster care is different than growing up at home. And it wasn't an easy experience, and especially for people who are emancipating from foster care, leaving and to be independent and to live on their own and start their own life. Like, that was a big struggle for me. So even as a young kid, I saw that it was tough being in foster care, and then leaving foster care was like, oh, holy moly. This was really, really difficult. And that's where, when I started school, I was like, okay, I need to solve that problem. And what I've heard about that problem is that they don't have enough money, that all of the people that I've ever wanted services from, or I said, hey, I have bad teeth, I need a dentist, or I need this, or I need that, or an extra pair of socks. It was always like, there isn't money for that. So that's what I heard as a child. So of course, my realization was, okay, I have to have create a company where I'm going to take the profits and have my own foster care agency and be able to use my money for that. So I'm not dependent on government money.
Okay.
And
so let me, because I don't fully understand, because I know you do. You just mentioned that you do the nonprofits for foster youths, and you said you were a foster child yourself, which meant that you grew up in as an adopted child, or you grew up in a facility that you did not actually have a mother and father role model.
That's correct. So yeah, I moved around from foster home to foster home a lot. I think I lost count a long time ago. I kind of calculated, just how many foster homes I'd been in. And I think on average, as I was moving every 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So emotionally, that could be difficult. I mean, because we have not talked about this. I know we talked about it in brief, and I can tell by the look of your face for the people that are actually watching the video that this is a very emotional thing for you.
Yeah. Well, it's my big why. It's why I get up every day and I grind away, in a job. And a lot of us who own our own companies, we know it's a grind. It might be a joyful grind in some aspects, and we're really happy to be doing it. But still, there's always parts of our business that are not so fun. For me, it's the paperwork, the payroll cards and all that. Like, not a fan of it, but when things that I don't like doing or things that are a struggle, that's how I remind myself of why I'm here. And I'm here for my nonprofit to help people. So the more that I put myself out of my comfort zone and push my business further, I'm helping more people, I'm making more money, and I'm helping even more people through foster youth, through helping foster youth.
With the foster youth, is that like money you're donating, time that you're donating, both, or?
So for a long time, I was donating time and volunteering. So I was volunteering with Rotary and volunteering with other groups who help foster youth. And so I speak on panels a lot and do Q&As. And I right now have my own nonprofit that I started in this year that just got 501c3 in April. I could still say this year because it's 2017 as we're doing this interview.
Yes, this is the last couple of, normally I don't date my shows, but yes, today is December 28th, 2017. So when you listen to this, it's maybe January or some other time frame, but yes, she's starting it in 2017.
So, the nonprofit has been around for a short amount of time. So right now we're still, we're not at this time where we can help youth yet, but we're getting there. And that's something that's important to me.
Okay. So that's your reason that you're doing what you're doing. Not only are you helping businesses and employee retention, as you had mentioned, as well as possibly even increasing the bottom line of the business, but some of the funds that you're getting from that allows you either financially or even time-wise to be able to go and follow something that you're very passionate about. Yes.
And with my email newsletter, I actually do once a quarter talk about how my profits from my business, what they do in the nonprofit and how they help people. And so sometimes I'll talk about the volunteer work I've done that quarter because my nonprofit is not directly helping youth yet. So I've been helping youth through other nonprofits throughout my life until my nonprofit is new and it's ramping up and heading towards a space where I can service youth directly through my own company. But so far I've been doing it through other established nonprofits.
And would you say that the fact that you're doing this with a nonprofit, that inspires you to even work harder in what you're doing with your business, and even because you do something that's very creative, out of the box kind of thinking. And for those of you that are out there that are listening or watching this, she's initially started as an insurance agent, but however she found a way to, number one, to do a huge service for the community, which I applaud you for that. But then not only are you doing that, the helping of the businesses, but your altruistic reasons for doing it, you're now also doing something that was really true and dear to your heart because you are a person that grew up in the system. So you understand personally what these kids are going through. When I say kids, because I'm assuming foster care is up to 18 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of them. I emancipated early at 17. I ran away. It's tough to stay in foster care. And I think for a lot of youth, as they're getting close to that 18th birthday, there's so much trauma from where they came from to even end up in foster care. And then there's trauma in foster care. So by the time you're getting around to your 18th birthday, I think majority of foster youth are just itching to get out. Like the statistics for what happens to them when they get out, don't even face them. And I know when I was looking at that situation, I thought I would never be homeless. Like I thought I was one of the most prepared foster youths for aging out. My lawyer at the time and my social worker told me that I was the only foster kid on their caseload that had a car. It was a beat up Chevy that I had after my dad passed away. Like I just took his car. I had a job, Starbucks, and that was like a miracle to my lawyer and my social worker. And I was living in a horrible place where they were basically using me as labor and they were wanting to take a part of my money. And my stuff was being stolen all the time. It just felt safer. And for a lot of my childhood, it always felt safer being out of the home, like out of the foster home or out of my own home. So, I kind of, a lot of those years I made my own way.
Okay. And that became your motivation. That became because as you were saying, you were working at Starbucks, you had a beat up Chevy, and you were living in a horrible location. However, you were considered the lucky one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I left and I started sleeping in my car. I was really convinced that I was going to be able to find an apartment, and I had the money, like I had a job, and then I was the struggles of, a young kid at 17 asking a landlord to rent an apartment. They're like, you don't have credit.
Well, you're not even legally able to sign a contract.
Well, I did have the paperwork for that. The court did stamp me an adult that I could officially be making my own decisions and, yes, like sign a lease. But that didn't mean that the landlord wanted me to sign the lease, that they thought that I was responsible. And so I kept looking and a lot of rejection on those applications. So essentially I was pretty much couch surfing and homeless for an entire year. And right before my 18th birthday, my father's best friend co-signed for my first apartment, decided to take a chance on me. And I told him, I'd always make my rent, and I did, never missed one payment. And I left that apartment with a good record, and he got his deposit back. And I'm so grateful that he was able to step in and help me. And one of the things that has been special to me in my life is that at all parts of the horribleness, there has always been somebody that has seen something in me and has stepped in and helped, even if it took a little bit. People have. And so I'm really grateful for him giving me that chance and getting that opportunity to have my own first place, because that was really the start of my life.
And I think because with what you're sharing right there is phenomenal. I mean, not only does it help you with your business, because it's all about the trust and the experiences that you went through, but the other foster kids that you're talking with. I mean, you were a product of the product. I mean, you came from there. And now that you're, you got your own place, and you said West Hollywood, which I'm assuming is not very cheap, being California. I mean, so you definitely have improved since then, and you built your own business from the ground up. And I don't know what happened between your 17th birthday and 9 years ago, because I'm not sure. I've never asked you how old you were or anything. But we started doing the insurance, and then 3 years ago, you started doing this very custom portion of it that has really allowed you to aspire and to grow and to become the phenomenal person that you are today. Thank you.
Yeah, I am happy with where my career has gone. It's taken a lot of work. And I think when people think about owning their own business, there's a lot of fears that go into that. And of course, the fears were always there for me in the beginning as well. But I knew that I always had to own my own company, and whatever way that was, or have some sort of residual income, because if I wanted to provide that money from my nonprofit, that was the best way to do it. Because I definitely didn't come from an independently wealthy family that was going to give me a chunk of money to put into an annuity so I can get paid every month. That would be a dream, but that wasn't my dream or my life. So that's always been my why, and why I continue to day in and day out just keep getting creative, or think of, if something isn't working, how do I make it work? Or what can I add to make my business more appealing to people? And so that's how it evolved over time.
Okay. And I guess we'll start going down that road. When you were first starting out as an insurance agent or with your business services company, I'd like to talk to you about some of your early successes. What are some of the early successes that you had? Maybe that getting that first deal to realize that, hey, this idea actually is something that can work. Could you share some of the information about that?
Yeah. So early successes, just in the general of, I guess a clarifying question, in the insurance, or when I started the employee retention?
The employee retention, because that's what your business services is mainly about.
Yeah, because I felt like the beginning, the insurance part was a heck of a lot harder.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that then. We'll talk about both.
Okay.
We got time.
Like when I started with the insurance, I was like brand new office just from school. And at this point I'm 35, and I've been in the business for 9 years. So at that point I was just like leaving school. I knew the concept of what insurance was. People pay their premiums and they get protection. That's about all I knew.
I think that's what most people think. That's what most people what they know. So.
And so the skills that I had to learn in those beginning stages of marketing myself, learning how to have sales conversations, how to build relationships, like those were a lot harder for me to learn than when I mastered a lot of them and then decided to add a new aspect to my business. Because at that point, it felt very natural. It was like, I'm already in the space. I'm doing really well. I have a lot of relationships. I have a huge book of business. But I just want to bump it up and go to a new level and see where else it could take me. And so I wanted to, my intention, my thought process behind it was I wanted businesses to come to me. I wanted to stop knocking on doors and asking them if they wanted to work with me. I wanted to offer something that was so good that they would seek me out and come to me.
Okay.
And so that's where the employee retention concept came from. And so then I just started networking even more with like brokers who do the other parts of employee benefits like the HMO and PPO. And I do a certain section of it. And so creating those relationships and working with the brokers was able to give me more products to offer the businesses. And then I was just able to add so much value to the companies I was already working with, and then add more value or be more attractive to companies I wasn't working with yet, and really differentiate myself from other insurance agents. Because essentially, when you boil it all down, I'm an insurance agent.
Yes, well, that's because that's how you, as you said before, you make money off the commission of the insurance products you sell. You're not charging at this time. You're not charging the employer or even the employee for your services.
Yes.
Okay, and so I'm assuming businesses are now knocking on your door saying, "Hey, we heard what you did with this company. We would like to bring you in to see what you can do for us." Are people doing that now?
Getting there.
Getting close. Okay.
Getting close. I do, like, people can schedule appointments with me, and I have conversations with businesses all the time, but sometimes, it's not the right fit. Like if a company is really, really brand new and there is only the business owner, like one other assistant. And although, the concept of lowering the bottom line is really attractive, there is they're not expanding yet, or haven't expanded yet, where I can really hone in and help them save that money in that space, if I'm making any sense. Well, they're just too young for me.
So there's a break-even point. They have to be making so much money. They have to have free. And each business, I'm assuming, is going to be different. I mean, if you're going in there and you're talking to a life coach, there's different products you could offer them that could be beneficial or not. But if you're working with a business, a mom and pop, let's say a bicycle store, and they have one or two employees, they may or may not have a program, or you may not be able to offer a service that would be beneficial to them. Not everybody can benefit from this. But as they're growing and they're expanding, now you can definitely step in and say, okay, this is what I can do for you.
Yeah, I'd say like you'd have to have more than 5 employees to really be able to benefit from having my type of services. Yeah, because usually the more employees people have, the more that they have to provide insurance benefits for them.
Right, because you got workman's comp, you've got all these other things.
Yeah. So if it's just like a coach and they're on their own and they're just running their business by themselves, I'm probably not the right fit for them. But if it's a coach who has an assistant, and then another person who's handling they have a few people handling different parts of their businesses, and they're legit employees, they're not just independent contractors, then we could be a good fit.
Okay. So for those of you out there, we'll be getting your contact information here at the very end of the show. But for those of you out there that are expanding your businesses, Natalia may be somebody that you would definitely want to reach out to. Right now, you can only do California, Nevada, and Utah, though. Is that correct? Until you actually build your team building specific programs, then you could possibly offer other other services at that time?
Yeah, I'm looking to be able to put it on a membership type of site where it wouldn't be like a monthly membership. It would be like a one-time payment, but something that people can view the videos and learn that way if I'm not able to be present.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Yeah, actually, I'm doing the same thing. I'm creating my own online training videos and stuff as well. So maybe you and I get to talk offline about something like that, how we could possibly help each other out and our experiences with that.
Yeah, of course.
So now when we were talking about your success, what about some of your, what are some of your recent successes that you've had?
So most recently, like successes with like companies, have I helped them grow, or successes in growing my own personal business?
Growing your own personal business.
Okay.
As an entrepreneur.
Okay. So with me, like a part that I've been doing recently is employer events. And to me, that's a success, because getting employers to show up on a specific date in a specific place and figuring out what they need and offering that value and having them walk away happy and that they actually were able to solve problems. So that took a lot of work and a lot of putting together. So that's been my most recent success, is that I had a good employer event. We have another one coming up on March 16th, and I'm doing those events with Kaiser. And so that's huge. Yeah. So I have a Kaiser doctor who speaks on health issues, and you have an accountant there and a lawyer there. So when the business owners are coming to this event, they can actually get help with other things other than retention. Like it's a bonus thing that I have for them, and that keeps them engaged in a long term. So I try to put on these, recently been doing it. Like I've had one event so far.
Well, but it's a new tool in your toolbox that you're putting together, which for those out there, again, that are listening or watching this show, you're doing something different, you're doing something out of the box, and you're willing to take the risk to do something different that could be beneficial not only to your company, but also to your clients as well.
Yes. And I've gotten good feedback from the clients, and that's exactly what I want. And it's still an event at no cost, and it's just made to add more value and to keep them engaged in their business and have an opportunity to ask questions that other professionals can answer that are not my profession. I'm not a lawyer.
Right. And you cannot give legal advice, or you cannot give tax advice. Blah, blah,
exactly.
Blah.
Yeah. All important stuff, though.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And now tell me about your fears then. What kind of fears did you have getting started in the insurance business, or even creating your employee retention program?
So there was a lot more fears and just getting started. And
you don't know all the different things that you are able to provide.
I looked at an agent guidebook for an insurance product, and I was like, holy moly, I got to memorize this. And then times 7, for all the, so that was the fears. And originally getting into the business was, can I do this? Mm-hmm. Like, can I protect people, like more than just, charging them a premium, but like, do I know what I'm talking about? So that was, am I good enough? So those were the fears that I had. How did you
get past that? How did you get past that? Because a lot of people are going to have the, am I good enough? Especially if they're just starting out with their own business, especially if they're going to be a solo entrepreneur.
For me, it was really competence breeds confidence. Okay. That's something that's kind of been a mantra of mine for a long time. So I'm a bookworm. Like I just hit the books. I study. So I knew those products inside and out very quickly. And actually, when I went to some of the meetings with my coworkers, like I noticed that I was able to answer the questions quicker. Like one of the first ones to provide an answer when it came to a compliance topic or a product. And once I realized that, like, hey, I know what I'm talking about, then I just went out there and was like, are you curious about what I'm talking about? Do you want to hear more? And when I started getting good feedback on that, then for me, it was that, my confidence started to build, and I felt like a bigger fish. And so instead of being a small fish in a huge pond, I was feeling like I was growing. And and taking up more space, and was providing more value to people. So that's what helped me, is like that day in and day out of being in action. I think that's an important part, actually. When we're scared, sometimes we don't get into action. Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of, I don't know, I call them nerds, but, the voices in the head, not like real voices, but you know what I'm talking about. Those voices that tell us, that the doubt, the self-doubt. Am I going to, will this customer say yes after I present? And oh my gosh, they gave me an objection. Like at first I was like, oh, first objection. Okay, no, you don't want this. And then I really had to learn that objections are good. And that there are people asking questions, and that it's continuing the conversation. It actually means that they're interested.
Yes. An objection, is oftentimes can be construed as, hey, I just want more information. I don't understand it well enough to make a decision. If your objection is no, okay, well, so be it. Go to the next person.
And so in the early stages, it was a lot of those fears of just, do I know this? Am I good? Am I getting out there and doing the right things? And with time, those fears subsided. And I guess another fear that I always had, that I looked at my little sheet that I jot down because I'm not always so ready to talk about, is I have a mobility challenge. I have a disability. And that came from when I was a young kid. I had an injury when I was 2 years old, and that kind of started the whole foster care thing. Like, my home wasn't safe for me, and my parents weren't good parents. So I had an injury, and then I was taken away. I wasn't with them anymore. And so when I walk, I have a limp, a pretty heavy limp, and I look unsteady. And so it's like a deep down inside fear that I've had for many years growing up too, is how judgy will people be? And sometimes people have been judgy, and sometimes they haven't. But I noticed as I got older, it was really how I present myself and the energy that I have about it, which has been a big learning. So there was, in the early days, there was a lot of fears about, well, if I don't know what I'm talking about and I have a disability, they're probably going to think I'm stupid. And I'm just being really straightforward with you right now. And so there have, just like in any space, you have your people that are unkind, that aren't nice. And I've met some of those people, definitely. But I think overall, when I show up in a professional manner and I have an energy about myself that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about, and I have testimonials and companies that I provided value to. So I show up now to the table knowing that I have value to provide. And if that person thinks that my limp is a problem for them, well, we're not a good fit. So
your physical, whatever, disabilities, as you said, has nothing to do with what your knowledge on those topics that you're talking about, nor the product that you're offering. True.
But we're talking about fears.
Right, true.
Fears don't always have to be logical, right?
That is true. Most fears are actually illogical.
So that was a big fear for me. It was one that I carried for many years. In the sense, even when I met with people, I wanted to walk behind them and not in front of them, as if them not seeing how I walk. But it's all the little ways that I hid, that I masked myself, and I don't do that anymore these days. Life is just too short, and it's like, I am who I am. I'm happy with myself. In the long run, I think having a mobility challenge has really taught me a lot. I mean, my mobility challenge is not so heavy that I'm not wheelchair bound. I don't use a walker or anything like that. So I am mobile and I can get around and get to places. So it hasn't stopped me from doing anything besides being a professional runner. But it has taught me a lot of lessons and relationships and people and humility and life. And those lessons have been worth it.
I'm glad to hear that. And you may have actually answered the next question I was going to ask you, is about your biggest challenges. So would you say your biggest challenges have been that as well, overcoming your own prejudgments of your limp, of your foster care, of all these other things that were dealt to you, but you've overcome it? I mean, you're obviously, you've got a good business going. You started a 501c. I mean, you've got all of this great stuff going for you right now.
Yeah. And, I talk about how a lot of the employee retention stuff is changing mindsets of the employers to really focus on their employees. And so a lot of my fears were changing my mindset and focusing on other parts. And so I tend to want to focus outward. So when I notice that I'm being judgy on myself, like for whatever reason, then I focus outward on people and my why. Now my why is actually helping others. It's not how bad is my limp today, so that's helped me. But yeah, as a personal challenge that I think a lot of people or maybe that I don't talk about in a lot of spaces, that is one. Yes. I even had to write it down to cue myself to talk about it, or else I would have skipped over it completely.
Well, and I appreciate you being so vulnerable that you're sharing that, because I know that this is an emotional thing for you. And I mean, we really don't know each other that well. And this is being heard by who knows how many people that you may know personally, people that I may know personally, and people that neither one of us know. So thank you for being vulnerable in that space. And the fact that you're willing to, say that, hey, yeah, you even judged yourself upon your own setbacks, as just call them, that you had, or challenges that you had. But I think you're doing a great job. You're looking at turning those challenges into something that's positive. And it's like, hey, you see me, let's say that you walk into a room of corporate executives, and, let's say you do have a bad limp day, and you say, okay, look, so this is what I changed from, this is what I grow from here to here. This is what you could do from your company that's also limping by to be more successful. Just changing it to a positive.
Yeah, so sometimes I joke around and I say my life is all about challenges to benefits.
Okay.
Yep. And it connects in so many ways, because I do employee benefits. I help companies with their challenges. I have a challenge myself, that I've turned into a benefit, all around. I do an art that's also actually a benefit to my disability, because I'm aside from the business education I have, I learned how to blow professional glass, like Venetian style glass, for 3.5 years. So it's a little skill I have tucked under far away, that I'm a glass artist. And that's being a really, fire and warm space. It actually helps my disability. And so I notice a lot of the things I'm involved in life are connected in some way, in some string.
And I'm glad you're sharing that, because there's going to be people out there that have their own challenges, whatever if it's self-imposed or if it's an actual physical challenge, like what you were going through, and even a mental challenge, like you're when you were growing up. Is how do you get past those challenges? How can you turn those challenges into a benefit, and how it work? Where's the positive in that? Where's the silver lining in this? So I mean, I know I've judged people. I've met a lady, I don't know how many years ago, 5-6 years ago, and she walked with she had a crushed spine, and she walked with 2 canes, and she had a big left right wide gape, or gait, I guess it's called. And I come to find out she was an airplane survivor. She had jumped out of a Cessna plane right before it crashed, and she crushed her lower spine. So therefore that caused her to have that very noticeable thing. But she's also a tattoo artist. And she's a very skilled tattoo artist. So what does her walking have anything to do with her tattoo abilities? I mean, there's no challenges there. And after getting to know this person, seeing some of the breakthroughs that she went through, was very profound for me. That she didn't give up, her tenacity and her never quit attitude. So I love that you're not allowing that challenge to cause you to quit, to sit around drinking all day, or you're not allowing that to happen to you. So you know what? I don't care about this. What's next? What can I do next? And that's amazing. Thank you for sharing with that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love learning, so I'm always happy to learn a new skill. And I think that's what's kept me in the wanting to be an artist, and the wanting to have my own business and have a nonprofit and be in all these different areas.
Well, speaking about that, I'm going to ask you what I call the next steps section is for your nonprofit, for your business, and possibly even your insurance business. Where do you see yourself a year from now, or even 2 years from now?
Good question. So I definitely see myself heading the same direction in growing my company and continuing to help businesses with employee retention, because at my core, I value people, helping people. And so that's always going to stay in what I do. And so I'm just growing in the sense of adding more to be able to have more to give to the companies that I'm working with, and to be able to provide even more to the employees and the employers. So I want to expand in other states, and maybe at some point, I don't know if this would be 2 years from now, but have people that do what I'm doing with me together, and we're doing it in more parts of the United States. Okay. I want to do that online membership site where folks who are not in states where I can work, like New York, no matter how big I am, New York is one of those funky compliant states where they have their own rules, and I'll probably never be able to sell insurance there. So New York residents are perfect customers for my subscription site that I will create at some point. That's not created yet. And for my nonprofit, in the next 2 years, I want to grow that company to be in a space where we're actually servicing youth directly from my company. So our first few challenges that we need to overcome is a property. And I'm looking for a property that can be donated so that I have permanent housing for the youth. And
so you have your own foster care facility then?
Yeah. So because the youth are aging out of foster care, so they're leaving a foster home. And the statistics of them being homeless are almost 50% within the first year. And I was part of that statistic. Like
you slept in your car for a while. Technically, you were homeless at that point.
Yeah. So and I thought it would never happen to me. And I was one of the most prepared youths, as the people in my life at that age saw it. So my goal is to step in and to make sure that doesn't happen, and to provide permanent housing, to connect the youth with their doctors, to the type of benefits that they need, help them get insurance. Even when I aged out, I got slapped with my very, very, very first emancipation gift was a doctor's bill that then got put on my credit. And straight out of the gates, I had medical debt. Just because I aged out of the foster system. And so that's challenging, fixing your credit when you're trying to find a home and, your next meal and trying to get your education figured out. I can imagine that it would be tough for any 18-year-old or 17-year-old who's lived at home and been prepared by their parents to step out of their home and live on their own and get their own insurance and everything else that they need. It's just so much harder for youth that have come from foster care. And my nonprofit focuses on youth with disabilities because I have a disability. And so aging out of the system, having a disability is 10 times harder, because a lot of the things that that people would think are privileges weren't privileges to me. Like I needed parking. I needed my apartment to have parking. And that costs a lot more here in Los Angeles to have an apartment that has its own parking space. So to a lot of people, that was like, oh, well, that would be nice to have, wouldn't it? But for me to walk 2 or 3 blocks late at night after work to get home was dangerous. And it was, sometimes I physically couldn't do it. So I racked up so many tickets and that, so it's like having a disability legitimately cost me more money. And that was tough when you don't even have enough money to live on and to get by on. So that's what I'm trying to change. What I want to help the youth with is find solutions to those problems and making sure that they can find housing that's able to start fill their needs.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because it's reminded me of many different stories that I've gone through about what we take for granted, what we as a normal human beings take for granted. And until you actually are put in a situation where I can't take that for granted for a moment. Because I remember, let's say for an example, one time I was walking into a grocery store, a door with the door that you pull open. And there was a lady coming out, and she was coming out, and she saw that I was coming in, so she reached back with her right hand to go and catch the door, but she didn't have her right hand, so she missed the door. Like, oh, it'd be nice if I have a right hand. This is actually pretty cool. And And then there was another time I had driving on a highway here in Las Vegas, and it was 1 mile before my exit, and I saw the car in front of me. He had a flat tire on his on the passenger side back tire. So I put up alongside of him, and I waved at him to roll down his window because I said, "Hey, you have a flat tire." And it was an Asian guy that was driving the car, and there was a white guy in the passenger seat. And when he raised his left hand, he was missing his hand from basically halfway between his elbow and his wrist was gone, and his right hand was gone as well. Now the passenger in the car had both arms, but the driver had no hands. But he was the one driving, and he's like, okay, he's not letting his disability cause him to always ask for his friend to drive. It's like, what are we taking for granted? I mean, the fact that you know how to have a parking space. I mean, here in Las Vegas, like parking space, everybody's got a parking space. But in California, because real estate is a lot more expensive, that's something that you just can't take for granted. Another thing is maybe if you're handicapped in a wheelchair, well, you cannot rent the second floor of a property if it only has stairs. I mean, if it doesn't have an elevator. So, I mean, there's so many things we take for granted. And I'm just glad you shared that, you pointed that out, that some people just don't realize it could be a huge issue. I mean, you with a parking space and now getting all of these parking tickets, which are $40, $50, $100 per ticket, and you're getting, say, multiple of these per month. I mean, how much of your income is going just to pay for that? So thank you for sharing that, or bringing our eyes open to that. Thank you.
So, in my life, something that's brought me a lot of comfort is that whenever a situation is difficult or might be challenging for a person with a disability, or challenging in any way, even if you don't have a disability, it's just adjustments. Remembering that adjustments are okay. And so I've had to, a small adjustment that for me, because I'm a short person and it's hard for me to lift things from the ground into my trunk, but a small little step stool, just stepping up on a little step stool and lifting it and putting it in my trunk really helps because it's a different weight. It balances the weight differently. And just like reminding myself that if something is difficult or if something feels too hard to do, like just think a little outside the box about it and find an adjustment that would work, that would help me be able to do whatever I need to do in a way that's comfortable for my body.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because you're not going to let a challenge stop you. You say, how can I make a difference? Well, we're going to be wrapping up here in a moment. I would just like to ask you, I guess, one last question. It is there anything that you've learned as an entrepreneur that you would like to share with other people that are either looking to scale their business or looking to start their own businesses? I know you shared a lot already, but is there any last thing that you would like to cover before we wrap? Never give up.
I think in times when my business is hard, I think about that picture or a picture I saw somewhere where it's like a guy in a mine. It's a cartoon, and he's mining away, and the diamond or the gold or whatever it is there. And you can see it, that he's some distance away, but he's mining, but he wants to quit. And so whenever I want to quit, or whenever things feel tough, or it feels like I'm going against the grain, or there's a lot of resistance to whatever I'm trying to do, I think about that image and just keep going. So I think for a lot of business owners, what I would like them to know is never give up. If this feels right to you, and whatever you're doing, if it makes you happy, brings joy to your life, brings value to other people, and it's something that you truly feel like is your calling, do it. Stay in action. You'll get better. Anything worth doing great is worth failing at in the beginning.
And you do learn from your failures. Yeah.
Exactly. Those failures lead us to some amazing successes. So it's important to never give up and keep going. And it's not about the failures, about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and just getting back in the arena.
Somebody told me this maybe a day or so ago. It's like, you learn from your failures. I mean, look at a 6-month-old or a 9-month-old, or a baby first learning how to walk. Does he or she walk perfectly the very first time, or does he or she plop over, fall backwards? And but the thing is, the baby doesn't give up. It says, I'm going to walk on 2 legs. They may start off by crawling, but then they start walking, they fall. They may use the wall to hold themselves steady, but you learn from those failures. So just like that, what you just said. Just don't give up and continue moving forward. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Natalia, if somebody does want to work with you or find out more about, does their business qualify, especially they live in the 3 states that we already mentioned, the Nevada, Utah, and California, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you? Do you have a website that they can visit to get more information?
Yes. So my website is nataliayungerlevi.com. And they can also go to talktonatalia.com and schedule an appointment directly there. My website, that's my branded name, has a lot more information. The Talk to Natalia is mostly just schedule an appointment. But those are 2 places that you can go to learn more about me. I'm happy to be Facebook friends with people who are kind and good people. Trolls, no, but good people, yes.
Okay.
And I have a Facebook page that people can follow too, my professional page.
Okay, so for those of you out there that want to visit her, she has 2 websites. One was NataliaYungerlevi.com. That's Natalia, Natalia, Yungerlevi. It may not be spelled the way you may think, but it's spelled YUNGERLEVI.com. And you said the second one is top10natalia.com?
Talk to Natalia. TalkToNatalia.com.
Okay, so I did miss you. I thought you said top 10. I said talk, as in to speak, to T-O, Natalia, Natalia.com as well. And after you follow her on there, she may also be able to find her on Facebook, and you can find her. And as she said, if you're a good and cool person, she'll be more than happy to be friends with you, or to even like her business page that's on there. So, Natalia, I do want to say, as we're closing out here, that it was a pleasure having you on the show today. And any last words that you have for the guests before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much for having me. And it's been such a great experience getting to know you, Kevin, and being on your show. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Natalia. It was a great pleasure getting to know you as well. And thank you, everybody. Until next time. And Natalia, for the last time, thank you very much for being on our show today.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
And if you're a new entrepreneur looking to start a business, or you're looking to scale your business, please just give me a call by actually sending me an email at kevinadunlap.com. Go to the Contact Us page and send a quick email to me there, and then I will reach out to you to schedule a free consultation call. Again, that is kevinadunlap.com.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit kevinadunlap.com, facebook.com/kevinadunlap.author, and on Twitter @Kevin A. Dunlap. We'll catch you on the next episode of Life's Little Lessons.